Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I am here at the BC Aviation Museum for its open house, and I'm joined by Tom with the North Saanich Fire Rescue Department, and he's kind enough to give us a little quick tour of their engine and all the different compartments in there. So Tom, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you on the channel.
Awesome.
Thank you. So before we begin, I guess I'll just ask, how long have you been with the department and what got you interested in firefighting?
Yeah, so I've been with the department for about 10 years now. It was originally actually a friend of mine who thought I would be interested in doing firefighting. Ended up being correct. So I've been here 10 years now and looking forward to sticking around for a fair bit longer.
Yeah, right on. And, North Saanich is a fairly rural region, part of Greater Victoria, but obviously you guys do mutual aid calls and what have you. But, on average, how many calls are you guys responding to in a day?
So this year we're on track for, I think, just shy of an average of 3 a day. So just a little bit below that 1,000 call mark. And we are fairly rural in comparison to Victoria. There are some areas of higher density, like right behind you over there, there's Dean Park, fairly high density. So we're kind of like a suburban type area in some cases. So some really rural areas with farmland and then some nice densified areas with quite a bit of housing as well.
Yeah, right on. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. And so right behind you is a Spartan fire truck. And now there are pumpers and there are ladder trucks and what have you. Does this qualify as a pumper?
Yeah, this is one of the engines, yeah.
Okay.
So this one we've had for a few years now.
Right on. Well, why don't we start from this corner and we'll work our way around and you can just point out some of the key points.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So, as kind of standard with every truck, we have our air packs inside. So this one comes with actually a fair number of packs. We have our officer's pack sitting in the seat. And then in the back here though, we have 4 seats. So some career departments will only have 2 seats in the back. We run as a composite or department with some careers, some volunteers. We actually have 4 seats in the back. All of them have air packs.
Okay.
So we need to find somewhere to maximize space, hide different things. So we keep a lot of our hand tools tucked inside our little pump cabinet here. So in the back in here is a whole bunch of the electronics on the other side to do with the pump. And we can take a look at that on the other side there. Moving on over to this side here, we have some of our equipment here for chimney fires, so chains to knock some of the burning creosote loose. And then we have on this side here is what we call our decon area and rehab. So it's a little bit small, but it gives us basically everything we need. So we have soap to wash down after and get all the contaminants off of us, a brush to help with that as well, some waters, and then in our decon bin we have bags to put our gear in so that we're not transporting dirty gear with us after a call. So that's one of the big things emerging in the fire service now, is trying to keep the cabs of the trucks as clean as we possibly can and to reduce the contaminant exposure. You can't get rid of it, unfortunately, but this little kit here, it really does a lot of the heavy lifting for us.
Right on.
Moving now into these big things here, we have our electric fans. So some people have gas-powered fans. We here have a couple electric fans, and they actually are quite powerful. And so what we do every week, we run them down, charge them back up, just to make sure that they have enough juice and they can hold their charge quite well as well.
How long do they typically last if you've got them going full tilt?
We've had different experiences. It takes quite a while. We're talking like probably an hour plus.
Okay. Yep. Interesting. It's amazing how all these cabinets are now. When a truck is ordered, I guess there's different configurations that you can order for a truck. And so is it? I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but is it your department that identifies what they want in each compartment, or how many compartments, or is it just kind of like, you pick and choose, kind of like on a menu?
Yeah. So we can outfit the basic framework of the truck itself, but then when it comes to these compartments, they have these little rails here, so you can adjust where those rails are, and all the different components are ones that we add after the fact. So in getting it from the manufacturer, none of the stuff really in here comes with it. We end up picking it up afterwards. Really the only stuff that comes with it is the ladder up top there.
Right.
So the ladders and the poles will generally come with the truck. But outside of that, that's everything else in here is outfitted up just by us.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So up in this cabinet here now, we have our first responder equipment. So a nice big weatherproof case here. We have our AED as well, tucked into this case. And then down in here, we have all of our spare air bottles. So at a big fire, quite often people are going to go through multiple air bottles. So we need to have some place to store them. And each truck, we try to keep between 5 and 6 additional air bottles on each truck. So enough for essentially each person to go through a second bottle.
Right, and so if you get to the point where you're at a structure fire and you're going through multiple bottles, then what happens once you have extinguished like your primary and your secondary bottle?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in our department, we have a lot of accessory apparatus that we will usually send either an auxiliary member or a recruit firefighter who shows up, and they will usually tend to take that vehicle or pickup truck. We'll load the used bottles, and we'll go back and we have a cascade filling system back at our hall. So it'll fill 6 bottles at a time and we can recycle through there. So we have to be reasonably conscious of how much air we're going through and whether or not, I mean, realistically, if you're not making a lot of headway with 2 bottles worth of working air, you probably shouldn't be doing a whole lot with that fire anyways. You should be working it as a defensive operation unless it's like a big commercial structure or something like that.
Right, right, totally understand.
Now into this compartment here is where we have a lot of our small tools, or this is where we consider our small tools. Some of them obviously not so small, where we have our combination tool, so jaws and spreader. Down in here we have our pump. It's just a basic little pump that we can use. If we can't get close enough to a water source, we can at least use this pump and a bit of suction as well. And we have a length of hose there too. Some departments will run a rescue truck and will have a built-in hydraulic system in it. For us, we have just a portable Homultro pump. And so that is combined with this hose here. And then we can actually take this pretty much right up to a vehicle if it's down an embankment, and you basically do our auto extrication from there. So we're not necessarily limited by the amount of line that comes off of a typical rescue truck in some cases.
Right, right. Interesting. Wow. And so, right. So there's departments that have rescue trucks. So this particular truck is a, I guess it's an all-round kind of everything you need in one.
This one is, yeah, because what we do is for weekends and then evenings, this is actually the first truck out for North Saanich. So we have people who stay at the hall, and this is the truck that goes. So this truck needs to be equipped for essentially anything. So we have 4 gas meters in the truck for any sort of natural gas or carbon monoxide call. We have our auto-X equipment for an MVI. We have the hose on the truck for an actual fire. Really, this is the one that goes to basically absolutely everything.
Right, right. Excellent. Yeah, let's continue on.
Yeah. One of the interesting pieces back here, and you might not necessarily be seen in some departments, is this big beast here. So this is a valve that allows us to connect into a hydrant so that then a second truck can come in and actually boost the pressure from that hydrant for us. So you see on this side you got 2 here and 2 here. This piece here will go to the hydrant, and then through a series of a lever here, we can actually control where the water goes. So we can direct it through directly to that first truck. Second truck can come in now and actually pump in through here so the water can go out to that second truck. They can boost it and push it back through the line. So one of the big issues is if we have a long lay of the high volume hydrant lay, so it's 4 inches, and if we're trying to flow a lot of water, you can actually have a fair bit of friction loss in it. So it'll reduce the amount that comes out the other end.
Right.
This is essentially our way to combat that, where we can boost the pressure at the initial spot so that we can get a higher pressure at the very end.
Very cool. Very cool. It's amazing all the smart little bits that people think up, you know.
It is. And then, so with this here, we like to be able to have the versatility to, instead of maybe using what we call our monitors or master streams up on the top of the truck, we also actually have one that we can take around to the back side of a house, or just in an area where maybe there's a tree and we can reposition around a tree that we might not be able to do that in terms of where we could park the truck itself. So this has a couple hundred feet of this 2.5 inch, and it goes to a 500 GPM nozzle that will then, if we need to, we can spin it off and quickly turn it into 2 smaller lines.
Awesome.
So over on this side now, moving on, we have a few more hand tools. So we'll have a hammer, we have an axe, bolt cutters, and then kind of the staple, the axe and halligan here.
Right.
Then, moving on, we have a little bit more of an extension from our AutoX components. So we have our gas-powered blower, and then we have a couple bags of kitty litter there.
Right, and that's to absorb fuel or...
Exactly,
right,
yeah.
right.
So on the other side in that compartment, in that front compartment, there was a red bag up on the top. So that has like a hazmat spill kit. This has just a bit more of that absorbent material, so you can pick up oils and whatnot.
Right.
In here, so when we went through back there, we went through the cab, we went through the officer's seat, which has an air pack. The 4 in the back have an air pack. This here is where the driver's air pack is. So in some instances, maybe where you may not be in the most advantageous position, or the wind changes on you and all of a sudden you're running the pump and you got smoke blowing at you, you can throw on your air pack and then be protected.
Right on.
And then with that, we have a couple fire extinguishers as well.
Right. And the type of extinguishers that you guys carry are...
We run the AFFF and then the dry chem.
Okay. Dry chem and AFFF. Gotcha.
Now, on this side here, up top, is where we keep all of our RIT equipment, so our rapid intervention. So here we have a rope bag. We have our pre-connect, 100 feet of pre-connect, and tucked in behind here. We also have our irons. And we also then have, for our RIT manager, we have the actual bag with all the different equipment in here. They have their own board, so that they can also help manage as well.
Right.
So in the event of a mayday or a major rescue, we'll then be essentially creating that RIT officer position, and they're going to be sometimes helping aid out in terms of that rescue or managing that RIT crew.
Right, right. And RIT, just for those that aren't familiar with the acronym?
Yeah, so Rapid Intervention Team.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see it as RIC, so Rapid Intervention Crew. A whole bunch of different variations depending on Canada, the US, where in Canada even.
Sure.
Down in here we have 2 more packs. So these aren't all those Rapid Intervention Teams, but these are our 2 we call apartment lays. So we'll use them for say we need to go connect to a standpipe in an apartment building, or back over there where I showed you we could spin off that nozzle on the pre-connect there. We can spin that off and then attach these to it to get an extra 100 feet. With that comes our high-rise kit. And in our high-rise kit, we like to run a smooth bore nozzle. With that, we also have a pressure gauge tucked in here, and then a gated Y as well.
The smooth bore nozzle, is that to get further reach, or?
It can sometimes help with that. Generally what it is though is it allows you to get better flow with less pressure. So with these you can run at 40 PSI, 50 PSI and get quite a bit of reach with it. If you were to run a fog nozzle at 40 or 50 PSI, most of these fog nozzles are designed to be 75, 80 PSI, some of them 95 PSI. So
right.
The higher the PSI, sometimes you may not get that up at the top of a standpipe. And so this just allows us to better control and have a better flow out of our nozzles for better firefighting tactics.
Right, right.
And then finishing up with this one here, this is where we have some of our additional equipment related to different connections. So we have an additional nozzle, an 1 3/4, 1.5 inch attack line. We have a 2.5 nozzle here, a gated Y, and then a whole bunch of additional fittings that connect to all the different types that we might be encountering. So we have like our 4-inch Storts connectors, which are typical hydrants. We have the small mini, the 2-inch Storts, which is what we usually have with the airport fire. So we have a mutual aid agreement with airport fire, and so we need to have their fittings as well. And then we also have our 2.5 down to 1.5 inches.
Right, right. It's amazing how, just even that particular compartment is on a little bit of an angle, so you can reach at it. It's just well thought out.
Little nuances, and we've learned over time of just how to maximize the space that you have and different things that you can do to try to make it a little bit more accessible in the event of having to get in there really quick and grab something. You're looking blind, somebody who might be a bit shorter, you grab the wrong thing, and then it's just a total cluster in there because you've grabbed 10 different things.
Right.
So it just makes it stay nice and very aesthetically pleasing, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and obviously, when you go to when you're responding to emergencies. So the last thing you want to do is be fumbling around trying to figure out where things are. So, everything kept in its right spot, and yeah, it just makes total sense.
Absolutely. So then in this one here, this is what we would consider our servicing kit for fire alarms. So in here we have replacement CO detectors, replacement smoke alarms, so the ones that you would get at the just the normal hardware store. So when people call, their smoke alarms are going off or they're beeping, which is can commonly be either there might be dust in them or they just have a low battery. We can go, we answer that call, we'll go and we'll service those, replace the batteries, blow the dust out of them. And so this kit has everything we need for that. On this kit here, this is some of the additional tools that we would use for any sort of MVI. So if we need to do, say, a battery disconnect for something, or things like screwdrivers to help us get maybe a little bit of leverage when we're trying to open a door. So those combination tools, the jaws, the spreaders, kind of be a bit of a pain to get into a door jamb. So especially if it's been a compression and they're nice and tightly wedged together. So we can use these screwdrivers that are in here to give us a little bit of leverage to start opening that door and really getting that point of purchase where we can actually start really opening the door up.
Right, right. Interesting. Excellent. And some extra hosing down below.
Yeah, so down here is our extra hose. So on the back we carry 700 feet of that 4-inch hose.
Okay.
So the thing is, it's in 100-foot lengths. So if we pull up to a hydrant like the one that was around the corner there that's 20 feet away, instead of pulling 100 feet off, we can just pull either a 25 or a 50. And we have an intake on the other side, just like an intake right here. Mm-hmm. So on either side, wherever the hydrant is, we can actually deploy a fairly short length of hose, which is advantageous to us because it takes less time and you're not messing around with pulling things off the hose bed and whatnot.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is where, I guess, the complexity and actually where the real value of the engine is.
Exactly, yeah. So this pump, this is a 1750 GPM pump. So it actually pumps out quite a bit. And what this does is, on this, the digital valves can sometimes be a bit finicky. So what we do with this is you can actually basically control it just by single touch. So some departments will have levers, some they'll go up and down, others will come in and out.
Right.
These ones are all completely by touch. So it's not on right now because the truck's off, but these will light up. They'll tell us what our pressure is up here. These bars will light up and they will actually show us how open that valve is. And over here we'll have our water gauge to tell us what the water level is. Some of the trucks now will actually have, where this actually is where our repeater will tell us if the repeater's on.
Okay.
You'll see some newer trucks maybe will have a nice long bar and there'll be different colors.
Right.
And so that also is another way that you can tell how much water is in the truck based off of the bars. So This wasn't quite at that level of fancy at the time, but now those new trucks have come out with that. But this still is a great, very reliable truck here.
And how much are you able to carry in this truck?
This one right here is 615 gallons, and it's actually, I fibbed to you, it is a 1500 GPM. So 1500 GPM, but under the right circumstances, you can definitely get more out of what those pumps are rated for.
Sure, sure. Wow. And so on a crew, so this truck will respond if you're fully staffed out of the fire hall. This truck can respond with up to 6 people total.
So the way our department works, we're in kind of a position right now where we have 2 people on essentially through from 6 p.m. till 6 in the morning, so overnight. And then our day staff, we have career people who are in the hall outside of that. So for us, this truck will always have 2 people. Sometimes if more people come to hang out at the hall, do a workout, come join in with some of the meals that we might be making there that night, we might have more, but it'll never be less than 2. And so some people argue that 4 is the standard, and 4 is better than 2, but ultimately 2 is better than none. So
right.
We're just at a point right now where I think it's really hard to justify 4, and so you have to have a medium somewhere.
Right, and to clarify for viewers, the North Saanich Fire Department is a primarily volunteer department.
Yes, so it is. There are only 3 paid career firefighters, and then a deputy chief and a fire chief, and then the rest of us are POC members, so paid per call.
Right. So, and that's why you're kind of saying that this truck would typically deploy with 2, because if you go to a structure fire, and correct me where I'm wrong, but if you go to a structure fire, the truck arrives, but then people that are on call out or that are on beepers or pagers will show up at that call. So the truck is already there, and then you'll suit up and do what you need to do.
Yeah, and so the idea is that we get this truck out as soon as we possibly can, because again, while 4 people is the standard, you can still do a fair bit of damage with 2 people on a house fire. So you can pull a quick line, hit that fire quickly with 2 people. You can take command of the incident, really determine what your action plan is going to be. The sooner you get there, the sooner you can identify what those critical factors are, the sooner you can make that plan to address it and have everything ready so that when that next wave of people come in, it's instant movement and action. So that's really the whole goal of this truck. Our goal is to get out the door as quick as we can, get to that incident, and try to, we would take command and then try to stabilize that incident really as quickly as we possibly can with the 2 people we have, or more, depending on how many we have, and essentially try to make that plan so that when everybody shows up, they know exactly what their roles are, and you're not having that slight delay from arrival to figure out what's going on.
Right. Yep. No, makes total sense. Makes total sense. And very cool. So, we started on the other side of this truck, and we're looking into the rear cab now. But you can stand up in here, I guess, right? Like, I mean, you might be hunched over a bit, but
yeah, I mean, I'll hop in and show you. It's got a fair bit of room. I'm 6'3", so it's got quite a bit of space in here. So if you really needed to get dressed as you're going along, which you shouldn't, but if you really needed to throw something on, you could.
Right.
Or even just you're not huddled around, kind of like crouching inside some of these things like you might be.
Right.
So there's quite a bit of space in here, but when you're adding, if we're putting 6 people in this truck and having 4 in the back, I can tell you it gets pretty darn crowded pretty quickly with everybody's gear and everybody sitting beside each other. I mean, the gear is obviously pretty bulky.
For sure, for sure.
The one way we try to do that now, though, is we have these helmet holders to try to at least get the helmets out of the way. So let's see, if you take a look in there, we have helmet holders that we can put our helmets on.
Right, okay, yeah.
Just try to get some of the stuff out of the way.
Right, right. Very cool. And then in terms of like driving this, who is there in this department? Does everybody learn how to drive the vehicles?
Yeah, our goal really when we bring people on is that everybody, when they finish their probationary, and then the probationary phase, that kind of the 1 year mark. Ideally, by within 2 years is kind of our goal. We have everybody up to having a Class 3 driver's license with air brakes. So we want that Class 3 because we have a tender that has a tandem axle, but of course this truck has air brakes, so you have to have the air brakes endorsement to drive it.
And for those that might not be familiar with what air brakes are or how they differ from like a standard vehicle, how would you describe it?
Of course, you have to do a bit more of a pre-trip and post-trip every time. So the way we do it is we do a post-trip. So we check everything once we get back to the hall, make sure everything is good for the next trip out. I think the braking capacity is definitely a bit better with the air brakes versus just normal brakes. But really, there's not a significant amount of difference. You just have to be a little bit more aware of looking at your air gauges just to make sure that you're not running it down, because if you're driving along and you open up an airline, which sometimes we've done by driving over some of these delineators that are down by the airport, which through our fire gate, we've hit those once or twice and it's just turned the dial and opened up the tank. And so if you're not watching that, you're gonna wonder why you just skidded to a complete stop because now the park brakes went on or the spring brakes went on.
Right, right.
But this is actually, I really like driving this truck. It's actually, it feels very small when you're driving it. And where we control everything, it's a bit different than some departments. Some departments have a lot of different dials and buttons and whatnot. This is all controlled through a screen, essentially. So we have a screen up there, and once we fire it up, it actually is all fired up through that screen. So turning the lights on, switching the horn here on the wheel from the normal horn to the air horn,
North Saanich Fire
that all
Department.
happens through that screen there. Putting the truck into pump happens through that VMUX screen.
Wow. That's obviously taking modern technology and incorporating it into these vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Very cool. And as you just turned it on, we're just seeing some of the gauges kind of light up.
Exactly. And so sometimes with these electric gauges, you can see there's a little bit of residual pressure in there. So it's just there's a little bit of water in there that's causing a bit of pressure on that valve. So
Right.
for those of us who are looking for all the zeros, it can kind of be a bit of an itch you can't scratch. But
Right.
if push comes to shove, we can open it up and drain the valve out, and it'll go back to zero again.
For sure, for sure. Excellent. And I guess why don't we just finish off at the front, because I
Yeah.
think there's some compartments there too, I think.
There is, yeah. So up on the front, and like most trucks, our truck had some transverse lays as well of a tack line, but we also, for car fires, and even if we were to pull into somebody's driveway for a house fire, we have 200 feet, or 150 feet on this one of a nice 1.5 or 1.75 tack line.
Awesome, awesome.
And so these come again with our fog nozzles, our 75 150 nozzles.
Right.
So those 75 150s are standard, and then, like I said, we can switch over to a smooth bore if needed.
Yeah, so it's not just a big bumper because it looks cool, but there's
Yeah.
there's a function for everything on these vehicles.
Yeah, very much so. So on the outside, it looks like it's just kind of your typical engine, but we've definitely added some things onto it, so it can really handle pretty much anything that we'll be faced with.
Right on. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This has been really cool. You guys take the time to volunteer your time to help others that are in need. So I really appreciate you taking the time to show me the vehicle that you guys respond to emergencies with.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.